Russia is the largest country in the world in terms of land area. It's all over the place. Look at any globe or any map and see how big Russia is compared to any country you can think of. So, major ideas. What are the main physical characteristics of Russia? How do location and climate affect ecosystems in Russia? How does Siberia offer opportunities and pose unique challenges? Physical characteristics. Take a look at this big monster, Russia. Look how many time zones she goes through. I think it's 11. Um, compare Russia with the world's next largest countries, Canada, the United States, China, and Brazil. Russia's land area is nearly twice the size of any two of those other nations. Big country, as they used to say in the 80s. Okay, some physical characteristics to notice. The Ural Mountains, right through here, they're almost a straight line, and it's a typical place people divide European Russia, this side, from Asiatic Russia over here. So, Ural Mountains are a very important mountain chain. Down here, if you can see my mouse, are the Caucasus Mountains. Those have the highest peaks in all of Russia. So, boundary, highest elevation. Okay. Um, Most of the land in the south and in the west over here is pretty flat for the most part. Let's see, where am I going? Okay. While mountains ring parts of Russia in the south and the east, most of the land is fairly flat throughout. Um, so you can see over here in the east, you get really high. So remember, I asked you in a previous movie to think of Russia going east from east to west, or actually it was from west to east going this way, from Moscow to the Pacific. You go from being pretty flat and then you gradually get higher in elevation as you go this way. All right. Um, the low Ural Mountains divide Russia. I already told you that. Waters from much of the land of the Urals ultimately pass into the Volga, which is Europe's largest river. So, on the European side of the Ural Mountains is the Volga, the largest river in Europe. So, the largest country in the world has the largest river in Europe. East of the Urals, several large rivers flow into the Arctic Ocean, and they're flowing north. So, these rivers, the Ob and where am I? The Yenisei, right? And the Lena, they flow northward into the Arctic. All right, ecosystems. Far removed from any bodies of water, most of Russia has a subarctic or continental climate. Talked about that before. To the north, tundra to the north. In a band that parallels the Arctic shoreline is a zone of tundra. This area is dominated by very small plants and animals that are adapted to the polar conditions of the region. Bottom. Taiga. The taiga is a broad forested zone extending across Russia south of the tundra. I've already pointed this out in a previous movie. Trees do not grow to the great sizes in this area due to the harsh conditions. So they have a lot of trees, and for the most part, they're coniferous. They have cones, but they don't get very big like you might see in California with the sequoias and redwoods. The region is a source of paper and wood products and is also home to many different animals. Steppes. The steppes The steppes are broad open lands south of the tundra and forested zone. As in other natural grasslands, the deep roots of the grasses formed a very rich soil, which in Russia is called Chernozem or black earth. You need to know what Chernozem means, and it means black earth. And it's because the soil is very rich. You can super soil for growing, like Miracle-Gro crops. Siberia. The Asian expanse of Russia is known as Siberia. Although efforts have been made to link Siberia with the rest of Russia, it remains a remote area with few human residents. Much of Siberia is cool and swampy with a layer of permanently frozen soil, or permafrost. Modern high-rise buildings in Siberia are built on posts to prevent the permafrost from thawing and causing the buildings to collapse. Siberia is rich in gold, silver, platinum, zinc, petroleum, and natural gas. The harsh climate and terrain of Siberia make it difficult and expensive to reach areas with abundant natural resources. So, points to remember, there's a lot here. Siberia is really not, if you talk about Russia, Siberia, it hasn't really made the connection to European Russia. It's very different. So, if you know someone from Russia and they live in Siberia, they may not really resemble, culturally speaking or ethnically speaking, someone that lives in Moscow. Um, Remember permafrost. With global climate change, this is going to have an effect on the permafrost, right? So that's an important point to remember. I even think one of the quizzes asked you about the permafrost and how they have to change buildings in order for them to be supported. And then this is a general idea that you'll see later on in other classes. It's ironic that Siberia has so many natural resources and that they're hard to extract. So yeah, they're very resource rich, but it's not easy to get the resources out. Um, you know, that has a big impact on whether someone will go get the resources. For example, people like to drill oil in Saudi Arabia because the oil is easy to get out of the ground because it's relatively shallow in the ground. It's not very deep, and it has easy access to the Persian Gulf to ship it away. So that makes it more attractive for people to extract the material. Whereas in Siberia, that is not the case. It's very difficult. There is not much infrastructure. That is, there's not many roads for people to drive on, and it's very cold throughout the year. In fact, they have to use the rivers for roads sometimes. Like, you may have heard of this show called Ice Road Truckers. Well, instead of using the roads, they actually drive the trucks on the rivers that are frozen over because they're easier to drive on than the roads, which is counterintuitive maybe, but true. Okay, here we go. Which ecosystem can Chernozem be found in? Remember what Chernozem means? That should point you to the answer. How do climate and terrain of Siberia affect the extraction of resources? How ironic, I just mentioned that. The answer is okay. So I believe that was section 20.1. Good luck.